lovelies, I am Madam Crystal Butterfly, and right now, Wicked the movie is hot stuff, and I figured, now would be the perfect time to read the book that inspired the play, that inspired the movie. But before I get into the book, let's talk about the guy who started it all by writing his book, Wicked.
Before I get into the story, let's chat about the author who created it. Gregory Maguire is the author of several crossover books for adults and children, with his best-known work being Wicked. Sadly, Gregory's mother passed from complications from giving birth, even though he did grow up with a loving stepmother. Not having his mother in his life still understandably had a profound effect on him. It's why in almost all of his stories, his characters have lost a parent. Since childhood, Gregory was fascinated with The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. This led him to envision the Wicked Witch's backstory, telling her side of the story that the audience does not get to see, revealing that she is not wicked, but misunderstood, leading to the creation of his story, Wicked.
Something, my lovelies, that all of you really should take to heart. Wicked, the book, is very different from the play and the movie.
Years before Dorothy and her dog crash land, another little girl makes her presence known in Oz. This girl, Elphaba, is born with emerald green skin, no easy burden in a land as mean and poor as Oz, where superstition and magic are not strong enough to explain or overcome the natural disasters of flood and famine. Still, Elphaba is smart, and by the time she enters Shiz University, she becomes a member of a charmed circle of Oz's most promising young citizens. But Elphaba's Oz is no utopia. The wizard's secret police are everywhere. Animals, those creatures with voices, souls and minds, are threatened with exile. Young Elphaba, green and wild and misunderstood, is determined to protect the animals, even if it means combating the mysterious wizard, even if it means risking her single chance at romance. Ever wiser in guilt and sorrow, she can find herself grateful when the world declares her a witch, and she can even make herself glad for that young girl from Kansas.
There are a lot of characters in Wicked, so let's start this review off with our Wicked Witch herself.
Our Wicked Witch Elphaba did not have it easy. Neither of her parents really liked her. Her preacher father saw her as his moral failing, while her mother's priorities were focused elsewhere, and I will get into that later. The top reasons why her parents did not like her had to do with the fact that when she was born, she had razor sharp teeth, green skin, and she cannot go near the water. She can't touch it at all. It'll burn her. However, the razor sharp teeth fell out when her baby teeth came in, so that was a plus. But as to why she's green and can't go near water and all that, neither of her parents know. Actually, her mother might know, and her father might not be her father, and he doesn't know that. When Elphaba's father left per se usual to go and minister to people to grow his congregation, her mother got lonely and started getting into bed with any traveling male she found attractive. This behavior continued long after Elphaba was born, and eventually a traveler from Quad League country showed up at their home. While Elphaba's father was off preaching. This traveler makes and sells decorative glass that has a bit of a magical property. Elphaba loves looking at the glass as she sees glimpses of what may be the future in it. Now, our traveler's name is Turtleheart, and he does have an affair with Elphaba's mother, then later starts having an affair with both of Elphaba's parents. And I'm not going to get into deeper detail about that. You'll just have to read this book to learn more. Anyway, Turtleheart was traveling from Quadling Country to the Emerald City. Construction on the Yellow Brick Road has started, and when it reached Quadling Country, they discovered there are rubies there. To be honest, there are not enough rubies there where you would make it worth your effort to make a massive profit, but you know, greedy rich people don't care, they just want those rubies. So Turtleheart left his home so that he could go and plead with the wizard to leave Quadling Country alone, because the construction of the Yellow Brick Road and even going after those rubies will put everything in that area off balance and cause a lot of trouble for a lot of its citizens. And that would be just the beginning of the horrors that would be unleashed. To protect what someone loves most, sometimes they have to hide it. Sadly, what is truly precious to a person's soul cannot always stay hidden forever. Realms, the Hidden Fairy, available now on Amazon Books.
Years pass, and it's time for Elphaba to go to school, where she meets a girl named Galinda, whose main priority is to be popular.
Alright, let's fast forward several years. It's time for Elphaba to attend Shiz University, where she has to room with a girl named Galinda. Galinda's main focus in school is being popular and gliding through school via her personality and good looks. Important part of being popular, according to Galinda, is not being seen with the strange green girl she's being forced to room with. It doesn't take Galinda long before she befriends a couple of other popular girls. Meanwhile, Elphaba is busy helping a professor who's a goat by the name of Dr. Dillamon with his research, alongside a fellow student who's a munchkin named Bok. Elphaba hangs out with Bok a lot, and she discovers that he has a huge crush on Galinda, and despite Galinda trying to turn him down softly and making it pretty clear she doesn't like him like that, he is obsessively hoping that he can get her to be his girlfriend. Bok's extreme crush does not fizzle away until Galinda gets a reality check and starts behaving more mature. Long story short of why this happens was, first, Galinda's popular friends embarrass her, then something terrible happens to Dr. Dillamon and Galinda's minder, Alma Clutch. Okay, I just mentioned this lady out of the blue, so let me try to explain who she is. All of the girls, or at least the ones of high-born status, are supposed to have an Alma, who is basically like a governess. So against Galinda's wishes, once she gets settled in her room, Alma Clutch decides to be Alma for both Galinda and Elphaba, because Elphaba cannot afford to have an Alma. One night after putting Galinda and Elphaba to bed, Alma Clutch notices something strange going on in Dr. Dillamon's lab. She goes to investigate, and the next morning, Alma Clutch is found wounded and raving like a mad woman, and poor Professor Dillamon is dead. Now, Dr. Dillamon could never properly pronounce Galinda's name. He would always just call her Glinda, and Galinda is very upset about the good doctor passing, and to show solidarity with him, she does change her name to Glinda. Sometime later, Alma Clutch, who never really recovered from that night, passes, and at her funeral, Glinda and Elphaba and all of their friends get sloppy bit drunk. While they're all heavily intoxicated, one of their friends suggests that it's time for a philosophy club meeting, which is code for let's all go to a brothel. Because Glinda is sad and drunk, she wants to go. Elphaba thankfully is not so drunk that she doesn't realize what's going on, and she stops Glinda from going, and she says that they need to get to the Emerald City anyway because they need to talk to the wizard about all this insanity going on with the strange death of Dr. Dillamon and the attack on Alma Clutch. Marriage is only the beginning. Wedding bliss available now.
And they're off to see the wizard, the not-so-wonderful Wizard of Oz.
A major subject in this story that I haven't brought up is animal discrimination. In Oz, there are animals like the ones we are familiar with and animals who have higher intelligence. The research Dr. Dillamon was doing was to show evidence that the intellectual animals and humans may not be so different. He was doing this via discriminatory laws starting to rise because of the Wizard of Oz, and he was fighting for his and other animal rights. This is why Elphaba and Glinda and some other students believe Dr. Dillamon was killed. Elphaba and Glinda also think the reason why Alma Clutch was driven insane was because she saw what happened to Dr. Dillamon, and whoever did what they did to him wanted to make sure that Alma Clutch would not talk. The great Wizard of Oz is doing terrible things to the animals to make sure that they will lose their ability to speak and read and just be more like regular animals. When Elphaba and Glinda go to see the wizard, he appears before them as a skeleton with rain pouring over him. Elphaba was scared when she first saw him, only because she cannot go near water. As I mentioned earlier, it will burn her. But she summoned her courage and she demanded that the wizard stop abusing the animals. Sadly, her discussion with the wizard goes nowhere, and Elphaba and Glinda leave the meeting defeated. Elphaba sends Glinda back to school, and she decides not to go with her. Instead, she is going to stay in the Emerald City and fight for animal rights.
Before I get to the butterfly score, there are a few more things I would like to say about Wicked.
There are so many things I would like to tell you about Wicked. But if I did, this review would be too spoiler heavy and several hours long. But I will do a quick mention of some characters I would like to tell you about, starting with Elphaba's sister, Nessa Rose, who is a religious extremist and is in a particular state thanks to Elphaba's mother consuming a substance to try to make sure Nessa would not be green like Elphaba. Next, I want to quickly bring up Nessa's silver shoes that were made by her father. Nessa received these shoes as a gift, and Elphaba had a bit of a complex with these shoes because her father sent Nessa this nice present, and he doesn't really send Elphaba anything. If anything, he actually took advantage of Elphaba by having her sing to people when they were in Quadling country in order to manipulate people into joining his congregation. And yet he sent Elphaba nothing, and he sent Nessa Rose beautiful silver shoes. And Elphaba's complex with these shoes does get worse when a little girl named Dorothy Gale accidentally kills Nessa, and Glinda gets the idea to magically attach the shoes to Dorothy's feet. Okay, this is getting into the part of the story that everybody knows, so I'm going to switch things off and give another character who I absolutely adored a honorary mention, and that is a very sassy character who is Elphaba's mother's nanny. Nanny raised Elphaba's mom and always seems to be this person with some wisdom, or a person who tries to turn the situation around for everybody. She is a very funny character and really my favorite character in the entire story. Alright, now that I've gotten some of my favorite characters that I wanted to mention to you guys out of the ways, I do need to mention some of the problems I had with this story. There were multiple moments when I was ready for this book to be over. It is not a bad book, but it just hit points where I got tired of the story and I was ready for it to be over. Yes, those moments ended and I got reinvested in it, but it did hurt my enjoyment to go through several moments where I just was ready for the book to end. And my final problem with the story is the romance between Elphaba and a character named Fiyero. Fiyero is a prince Elphaba meets at school, but he is not getting a whole lot of spotlight in the story when he's introduced. He's really just someone who is there and mostly gets an honorable mention. Like outside of when he's first introduced, he gets a couple of honorable mentions that hey, he's with everybody, and then you would pretty much forget about him. He and Elphaba have a whirlwind romance when Elphaba lives in the Emerald City trying to help the Free the Animals movement. And the way the romance happens, because Fiyero was too much of an afterthought background character, it just doesn't feel like it gels well. It was a good part of the story, and I feel like the author did a lot of good things with Fiyero's character, but he came out of the blue so hard. When you realize he's Elphaba's romantic interest, it just does not feel natural.
Okay, my lovelies, the time has come for the rating. So, when it comes to Wicked, I am giving it the rating of 3.5 butterflies out of 5. This story did at moments take me out of it, and the other problems I listed earlier led me to the conclusion that this is a 3.5 butterfly book. But is it a bad book? Absolutely not. I actually encourage you to read this book. This author was very inventive. He did something very creative and different with the concept of the Wizard of Oz, and I cannot recommend this story enough. You really, really, really should read it. So, do yourself a favor, my lovelies, and get yourself a copy of Wicked. Okay, my lovelies, really quick before we get to the end. If you enjoyed this video, so the YouTube algorithm, like many other creators, doesn't pick on me, give it a like, leave me a little comment, and if you have not yet, slap the subscribe button like it owes you money. And don't forget to give that little notification bell a ring, okay? And with that, my lovelies, this video is a wrap. Now, if you please, come with me as we dance into a world of magic.